Okay, let's get into this. $100,000. Start right there. $100,000 per month. That's what everybody on the Joe Budden podcast, for the most part, should be making. Now, it's not what they make. It's not what they make. But if I negotiated this, knowing everything that we now know, that's how much they would make. Now, this is an episode that I've been wanting to do for a minute, because I think it helps everyone, regardless to whether they are a talent, whether they are an owner, whatever they might be, to figure out, okay, what is it that I should be making? How much should I expect to receive as a result of being part of a $20 million a year enterprise, even though I think the Joe Budden podcast makes more than that. That being said, I want to start it off with that, because I've heard a number of people say, like, yo, they shouldn't even be making, how much is it that they are making now? Let me check. Allegedly, because according to the article, let me catch everybody up. So if you don't know what the Joe Budden podcast is, it's a very popular podcast. And the host, Joe Budden, who retired as a rapper, started his podcast some time ago in the 2010s. And it's become quite successful. He allegedly mistakenly leaked how much he made on the platform Patreon, which allows people to pay you to watch your content. And that amount, I think, came out to $1 million a month. Okay. Subsequently, he decided to do an article with the New York Times, just letting everyone know, like, hey, this is how much I make from the podcast, with sponsorships, along with the Patreon, YouTube views, and what have you. Okay. All right, cool. So as a result of that, a lot of people got into their feelings about how much Joe Budden makes on his podcast. Joe is one of those people where, first off, let me say this. People forget in Hollywood, and even though this isn't technically Hollywood, but it is Hollywood because it's entertainment, people forget what you do in Hollywood after a certain period of time. So if you start being successful at something else, people are going to remember you for the thing that they have seen you be the most successful at doing. With Joe, more people have seen him successful at being a podcaster than they have a rapper. That being said, Joe Budden, when he was an active rapper, was incredible. He wasn't the most commercial rapper, but as far as like rapping, like if you really like rap, listening to him, you're not about to outbar Joe Budden. The dude hit one of my favorite cuts by Joe is a remix to a Rihanna song. I think it's Russian Roulette. I think that's what, when you listen to the flow that dude has, to the lyrics and the bars and he can rap. But people forget that Joe could rap. Or they try to diminish what he did as a rapper. Like, he was a failed rapper. The dude was not a failed rapper. He was a working, successful rapper who made money from it and who made songs that some people know. You may know him by his biggest hit, Pump It Up. But if you listen to his first album, he's got a lot of cuts on there where I'm like, man, it's just really good rap. Walk With Me, Calm Down, a lot of cuts. So that said, now he's a podcaster and quite successful, and he's underpaying people like a motherfucker. Wait, I can't start cussing yet. I think I'm supposed to wait on YouTube to start cussing, so I can't cuss yet. So I'm going to start with this. Now, everybody who is a host on the show does not deserve $100,000 per month. They don't. I'm going to start with, I'm going to go down the list of each person, and I'm going to tell you what it is that they deserve. And normally I don't even do like printouts or what have you when I do podcasts, but this was one where I was like, man, I gotta really get into my legal business negotiation bag. And I got a lot of points that I want to emphasize. And I got to go back into my own history of negotiating these types of deals and even being talent and how it is that people try to treat you. Okay. So first, let's start with this, because there's some overall things. Because it's a podcast, and I don't know if I've heard Joe say this on his show, but I'm just going to give you an attitude in Hollywood. Sometimes when you do things with your friends, right, who are not necessarily in entertainment, okay, like Ish, who is one of the co-hosts, and Ice, who's one of the co-hosts, weren't necessarily in entertainment from my understanding. If I'm wrong, I apologize for mischaracterizing the careers of these guys, but that's my understanding. Sometimes when people, especially on reality shows, because reality shows as well as podcasts can be a vehicle for people who are not normally entertainers to enter that space. Okay. So in this case, with Ice and with Ish, someone in Joe's position, and I can't remember if he's done this or not, could argue or will try to argue like, oh, I'm paying you X because you're not really a professional. I'm putting you here, but you're not really ready for it. So it's almost like you learning on the job. It's it's not even a probational status because you're hired. But what you're saying is you're here, but I got to teach you along the way. So as a result of that, you deserve less. I think that's BS personally. And no, you know what? I'm not going to even say I think that's BS. It is BS because, whatever it is that you are, novice, what have you, you got whatever it takes to be in the position to give the people the entertainment, the product, the deliverable that they want. So it don't matter if you're a novice or not. It doesn't. If you participate in making the product and the product is successful, you need to be paid like someone who has participated in the product and they're making it successful. Because if my skills or what have you are not up to par, then you as a producer, as a creative director, as a owner should not have me there. Right? Because I'm not good enough. If you go to the hospital, you go see a lawyer, you go to your mechanic, it's not going to be somebody there who isn't good enough to be doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, such so they're being paid less because it's like, oh, no, we got this surgeon, but he not really good enough. So we paying him like 98% less than what we supposed to pay. It don't work like that. You get that person out. Even on NBA teams, think about this. You are constantly moving and trading because you're trying to get better fits. You're trying to get better, people. Nobody's there because, oh, I just kind of like that dude. He cool or whatever. Everybody's there. Now, everybody's not on the same level. And that's why I said I wouldn't pay everybody the same amount, but if you're there, you're there, which is also, and this is an aside, I do hate when people shit on athletes, professional athletes, and say, oh, he's a bum, he's a scrub. There are no bums, there are no scrubs in the NBA, in the NFL, in the NHL. If you make it to that level, you are the elite of the elite, and you may only be quote unquote a scrub in comparison to the best people in the world, but you are still the best in the world. So you may not be like number one, right? You may be in basketball. If I was ranked as the number 200th, 500th player in the world when it comes to basketball, that's pretty damn good. So no bums. But getting back to what I said. But this is the game that they will try to play on you in Hollywood and entertainment, especially that, oh, well, you're not really good enough, but you don't deserve to be there. But they got your ass there. So if they got you there, then they need to pay you, period. Especially in the case of somebody like Joe Budden. I'm like, if that's the case, where it's like, you know what, y'all just not really that good, then do the show by your damn self, right? So with the Joe Budden podcast, and I'm skipping ahead coming back, there was there was a time where there were two co-hosts, Maul and Rory, who left, and Joe needed some fill-ins really fast. Because I think if Joe didn't get those fill-ins, then there's a possibility that show could have failed and just ended, because it was a critical point. Because when Maul and Rory left, I stopped watching because I was like, what is this? What are we doing? Because it was based on the friends who are potters, and then you just replace them with someone else. I don't think I really came back to watch that show until Melissa Ford and Queen's Flip, until they came. So if you're a person who's like, look, y'all not really up to par. Y'all ain't it. Y'all ain't like really like entertainers. Then do the show by your damn self. And sometimes when you do work with friends like that, you may change where eventually you become the role, if that makes sense. You become whatever it is that they need you to be. If they give you, a little amount of time, it's like, oh, you are a podcaster now. And to be fair, I have heard Joe tell, you are a podcaster, but I don't feel like it was done in such a way to say like, oh, you have become better at the craft. I feel like it was done in such a way to say, no, this is your main gig. This is where you make all your money. And it was positioned in a way to get leverage. Could be wrong, but that's how I took that. But over time, you become that. But it can be very difficult, especially for entertainers who have been entertaining for a very long time. It can be difficult for them to see you as anything other than what it is that they want you to be for their purposes. So you may grow by leaps and bounds and they just not go see you. I experienced that a number of times with clients, and where we will get to talking. They may show me a script or something, or a show or something like that. And for some reason want my opinion. And I'll say, well, this, and this. And they'll hear it, but they're like, well, how you know that? And I'm like, well, I won an award for screenplay writing at Sundance. Yeah. So, and I know how story is supposed to go. This is the arc. You may tell them that, but they're not going to see you as like, oh, this person can help me write. It's going to take somebody else coming in, telling them, yo, dude is smart. Dude understands how to create. You need to partner with him and create shows. You need to put him on your podcast. It'll take other people. And then when they see other people seeing you, that's when they're like, wait, hold up. But I am very much a proponent of, hey, if you think you that damn good, you think that you that fly and this person don't have it, then hell, go and do it your damn self. So with the cast, you're making $20 million a year on the show. Okay. The cast and the crew, these are the contractors who work. These are the contractors who work on the show, editors and all that. I think that was listed at like, let me check. I think that was listed at 1.5 million. And that includes 6 co-hosts. Okay. That includes 6 co-hosts. So I'm going to ask chat how much does each cast member make on JBP, Joe Budden Podcast? It's not going to know because each contract is different. Estimate. Okay. So it's estimating that each is making about between 150 and 250,000. That's what the estimate is, which I think is actually higher than what it is. I think it's probably about 150, maybe 2. And the reason why is that I know you got to pay all those other people, and 1.5, I think covered, let me check this. I think the 1.5 in the article was in regards to both cast and crew. Was the 1.5 million in terms of cast and crew. Don't lock up now. Yes. Oh, wait. According to the article from July, the 1.5 figure refers specifically to the co-host, not the entire staff and crew. Okay. So if we divide that 1.5 by 6, let's just assume that's what it is. That gives us the amount that each, okay, 250,000 per person per year, which is $20,833 a month, $4,807 a week, $1,600, about $1,600 an episode. Typically, when it comes to labor costs for a co-host on a show like this, it should be 30 to 40% of the revenue. In this case, I believe it works out to, if you're making $20 million a year, 10%, but it's less than 10%. But I think Joe probably makes 30, closer to 30 million off the podcast. But we're going to go with the 20 million number. So, because I want these numbers to be correct, is that of the gross. Okay, so that's 7% of the gross. That's the difference that we're seeing. 7.5% of the gross. Typically, with a show like this, and this is what Joe Budden has managed to do. We're very much used to watching things like The View, Jimmy Kimmel, or what have you. We could back in the day, you didn't have a YouTube, you didn't have a Patreon, especially a Patreon, where a creator could take their work in a centralized place so that consumers can go and find it and wouldn't have to go to individual websites and pay, but instead they got it all in one place. It's all in one place. So it's something to be said about the convenience of paying it all right here. We didn't have that. And so what Joe has managed to do is to take that show, like imagine if Barbara Walters was alive, right? And instead of making The View for, I think it's CBS, she was like, no, I'm about to make The View for me. Or live with what's her name? Kelly? Is it Kelly? I think it's Kelly. Kelly Ripa. I think she has her husband there now. So Kelly and Mark Consuelos, I think that's his name. Imagine if they did that on their own and they could get people to pay. Well, when you do that, you don't have to have the same huge amount of sponsors that a network production has. You can do pretty much like Joe has done, where you can set up, get an apartment that's really nice, make that into your studio, buy some couches, buy some cameras, invite everybody in, and you only have to get 70,000 people to say, yo, this is nice. I'm willing to pay between, I think that it ranges between 25 and from $10 to $25 a month, then you good. So in essence, it's almost like imagine someone who makes records. If they could get you to pay, or someone who makes music, they can get you to pay monthly. Like we used to have to pay for music, like a record club or something like that. Or even streaming, something like that. But instead of doing that, there's one show that comes on every week, I think like 3 or 4 times a week, and you pay for it. Someone who, if they remind me of Joe in a way, in that Howard Stern. I knew people who, or at least one person, who she chose her law school based on whether or not she could hear Howard Stern in that city. And that's how we are. We really, like, when we got a show that we like, we can just watch that all the time. The only problem is actors, producers, writers, and all of the non-creative staff don't want to make shows all the time. As far as I'm concerned, they can do The Big Bang Theory. They can make shows every week. I will watch it every week. That's not going to happen, though, because they want to do other things with their life. And it takes a bit more. But with Joe, he's created something. There's no script. You write some topics on the board, and people come up and they say, all right, this is what we're talking about today. And you can sit there and you can listen, and it falls into the category of what we call the second screen show, where you can watch it while you're doing a bunch of other things. Netflix, whether people know it or not, I've read an article about it. They have shows that are designed to be an accompaniment accompanying. They have shows that are designed to support you, because I'm not about to get that word down right now. But I have it here. Don't you? I hate when I have a word here and I can't get it here. But anyway, basically shows for you to play while you do all your other shit. I think I'm past the 30-minute mark, so I can cuss now. So that's what Joe is. The Joe Budden Podcast is, and that's the magic of it. And if you have something that lasts 3 hours, which a lot of their shows do last between 2.5 and 3 hours, it's gold. You can do that until you expire. He does not have to retire from this. So that being said, because it makes this much, it doesn't take that much effort. You can pay these people more. And that's how I would negotiate it. That is exactly how I would negotiate it. Charisma. And the reason why is that charisma is labor. We all have these types of people in our life, like Ish, like Ice, like Flips, that just have this thing where it's like, I'll watch dude talk. And I've heard Danny. Now, Danny from the Stop is this dude who runs. It's almost like I don't know what to call it, because I don't want to call it what he calls it, where it's like, or people criticize Danny and say, oh, you're just reacting. You're just making a show off of the show. Well, hell, that's what TMZ was. That's what Inside Edition was, Entertainment Tonight. There are plenty of shows like this. I think people should feel grateful that there's something in the podcast space that also fits this bill, because it shows you how successful podcasting is, especially Black podcasting. So I do like it. Danny, where I disagree with Danny, is he's like, oh, they're not worth it, right? Because he'll look at the cast member and say, oh, this is the worst podcaster of the group. He shouldn't be there if you add this. Well, I don't know. Does Danny ever say who? I've never heard Danny say who somebody should be replaced with. He suggested who Joe might think about replacing someone with. But I've never heard him say you should replace Ice with X. I've never heard that. So it's easy to sit back and say, oh, this person isn't that good. They should be replaced. Until you replace them. And then it's like, that chemistry is not what it was. And that's how it is. There was this dude played with Shaq. Shaq, when I say it, Shaq would know. And the dude, of course, would know. I didn't know why he was there. It was on the Lakers. I was like, why is he there? And a dude I knew who played basketball professionally, he was like, he is there because he can put that ball right there where Shaq needed whenever Shaq do. And I started paying attention. I was like, damn, he can throw that down. That's why he's there. Sometimes, like even with the Joe Budden Podcast, I think Danny underestimates that some of these people are here because they can do that one thing when it's necessary. For Joe, for another cast member, whatever it is. Because Joe Budden's podcast is one of the few that I've seen that sometimes works better without him there. Because and I've heard people say, and I could be wrong, that, oh, well, I could imagine that he might not like hearing that. It's the truth. I don't give a shit. I'm going to say what I'm saying. But it's also a testament to being able to put together a group of people who can work like that without you. That's not easy to do. And I find like the show flows better with Joe not there, because when Joe's there, Joe is kind of like a ball stopper in a way where Joe is going to go off, not on a tangent. He may do a deeper dive on something. And I think this is why he gives people the opportunity to speak before he says anything. And it's going to stop with him, where if in the NBA, we call it a ball stopper. He was a ball stopper. It's like once he gets the ball, that's it. He's about to shoot. Now Joe will pass it off to a bunch of people first before he gives his opinion. Sometimes that don't happen. He got the ball and he's just about to roll with it for a while. But when Joe is not there, even the cast, you get to see them differently. And I'm not sure if that's because they're underpaid. I would say this. In negotiating, I would let it be known that, hey, if they're paid $100,000 a month, that's $1.2 million a year, each cast member, 6 of them, 6 million, 8, 6. I think it's like about 7.2 million. Let me check my math on that. Let me get that. It's 6. 30. That's what I'll do. So I got 30, and I got to do something with that remaining 1.2, and that's how I get to 6. Anyway, all that's not important. 36% is what it is. Okay, that's more in line with what you would pay people on a production that's making 20 million. Paying the other percentage that we came up with, which is what did I say they were making? 7.4. It's fucking ridiculous. It truly is. So this is where I would start. So let's start with Melissa. Melissa is at this point, the only female on the show. And so now Danny from the stop believes that, show don't need Melissa and all this type of stuff. I've heard him say that she could be replaced and, the pod wouldn't. He doesn't think she's a good podcaster. This is what Danny thinks. I think she is a good podcaster. What I can say is that the show works, which is more important than if she's a good podcaster or not. Do I think she is like the best? No, but she's not. She don't have to be. She just has to fit in and make us keep watching the show, which she does. So in addition to her $100,000 per month, I think Melissa should get a wardrobe budget. What I have noticed from watching most podcasts, many podcasts, is that nobody's really dressed all that great, And I would imagine, especially for someone like Melissa, to dress in a way that is befitting the podcast and her, she would need more money. Now, you could say, and I've negotiated these deals where it's like what people do who I'm on the negotiating with, depending on the client. The clients want to feel special. So sometimes they will sacrifice money, in order to get perks, like makeup budget or something like that, which I think Melissa Ford should get that as well. How much that's going to be, I don't know. But the key to negotiating this is to not go in and say, I want that. I want a makeup budget. I want a wardrobe budget. Shouldn't do that, because if you do that, you're going to be the one who pays for it. I've negotiated plenty of deals where, whether it's for comedians or people making appearances or what have you, where they want to fly. They want to be flown to the venue. They want to stay in a nice hotel, 5-star hotel, but they want first class. They want first class ticket there. Most promoters don't want to pay a first class ticket there, especially if you're paying somebody, let's say 25 to come in to do a tight 15 or something like that, tight 5, 50, not 5, about 15 minutes, right? The ticket is about to be 4 out or 5. It just depends. So let me do that. That's 20% of what I'm paying you if I'm paying you 25, right? Why in the fuck would I pay that? So a lot of promoters, what they'll prefer to do is like, look, I'll just give you all in and you get that. So what I would do in Melissa's case is I would say, look, one, I wouldn't even start with the 100. Don't start with the 100, okay? Because if you start with the 100, your ass will walk out of there with 80. If you want 100, you got to ask for 125, 135, 150. But you got to have the leverage. So with Melissa, she's already starting a podcast. She's doing movies and a few more movies. I'm not sure if that last movie is on Netflix or not. Whatever the case, you have to do as much as that as possible in order to make your profile one that lends itself to, I don't need this. I can go and do this on my own and make X amount of dollars. If you're paying $1,600 an episode, which is pretty much what's happening, you need to find something that would pay you $1,600 per episode per week. That's what you need to find in order to have leverage to get much more. Now I'll get to whether or not you, what's the word that I'm looking for? You need to have leverage. Why you shouldn't have to have leverage when negotiating with Joe Budden, but that's where we are. So with Melissa, that's why I would ask for about between 125 and 150. And they may balk and be like, no, we ain't gonna do that, or what have you. If I have a client that really don't give a shit, I can get them whatever they want. But if it's a situation where they need the money and they have to keep working, it's difficult. It's difficult because they can't do the holdout. One of the best holdouts was the Friends holdout, where they all said on the show, we're not working. Nobody's coming back. We're not taking individual deals. 1 million per, period. If you can get a cast to stay together on a successful show, management will break. They will. Now they may do the thing like I think with Seinfeld, they agreed to pay the cast 1 million, but Jerry was part of the producer. He was producing. I think he was also on the show, and he got another check. So I think they just decided. I believe they ended Seinfeld because they didn't want to pay Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Oh, I forget George's name and Kramer's name. I don't think they wanted to pay them 1 million each. So that's why I think they ended the show. So, and a lot of shows end because they say, oh, it's just too expensive. I don't really get it personally because there's plenty of money to go around. I think people are just greedy as fuck. But with Melissa, that as well as the wardrobe budget. But I wouldn't go in and say that. I would go in and say 125, 150, agree on that number. Just agree once. And then once you get the number, then you say, okay, let's talk about benefits, or let's talk about what she's going to need in order to fulfill this contract. She's going to need a wardrobe budget. She's going to need makeup, hair and makeup, period. And I don't see no way around it. Like I think I heard Danny say this too, where it's like anything with Melissa Ford is going to go viral. Anything with Melissa Ford is going to go viral. I think in part because people like to look at her. I do. Now I can't say because I haven't watched her show. I don't think it's because of the things that she's saying on the show, but I haven't watched her show. But a lot of her clips on the Joe Budden Network, which involve her talking, do go viral too. So, and if I was negotiating, I would say it's not just how she looks, but how she looks is a part of the brand. So let's make her look good. And now that's with Melissa. Okay. As far as the term of the deal, maybe I don't know what type of deals they're doing there, but I would recommend she get anywhere between 3 to 5 years of this. And if for some reason, now this is the kicker, and I don't know if they would do this, but I believe in this. If Melissa Ford quits within 3 months of signing the deal, I would say 6. No, I would make a 5-year deal. And if she quits within that first year, she gets that year and another year of pay. Like, wait, hold on. What? Let me tell you why. If you got a 5-year deal, right, and she wants to leave after or leave in the first year, that means you've done something wrong. Either you fucking with her, you fucking her over, you're bothering her because you didn't want to pay her this and you're trying to, make her quit or just make life hell. Or sometimes people just be shitty like that, where I knew somebody, I'll never forget this, negotiating the deal. And they had the opportunity to make, I don't know, I think it was the job paid between $400,000 and $600,000. No, wait, was it $500,000 and $600,000? $500,000 and $600,000. And I was supposed to negotiate it for, right? But they got cheap. And this is the thing that a lot of people do. They don't want to pay lawyers. They want to go in there on their own. I got to make a note because I need to come back to some shit that I just heard. And in this case, he decided to negotiate on his own. I was like, what in the hell? I'm like, so what you asked for? Asked for 5. I'm like, you asked for 5? But they said it paid 6. Yeah, I don't want no target on my back. I'm like, the fuck? You don't want a target on you. And that's that. But my thing is this. You could have paid somebody else to negotiate it. Because the setup, this is how you do it. You just send the contract to your attorney. Your attorney looks at it and gives you notes. You can forward those notes to the person that sent you the offer. And you don't have to say nothing. You don't say nothing. So now you're the go-between because sometimes lawyers are characterized as the folk who kill deals. Okay. So people get scared like, well, the lawyers go come in and they go kill the deal by asking for too much. I want to be able to say, no, chill. You can do that. All you got to do, you can be the go-between. Now, I don't recommend being the go-between. I say just let me cook, but I'll do it that way, if that's what I think will make the client comfortable. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, there are some reasons to do it that way. So I'll do it that way. And I have initiated that way where it's like, no, you go, I'm going to send it to you and you just send it to them. Okay. That's how we go do this. You take a look at it, make sure, everything is, copacetic and A-okay, perfection. Right. Heard this clip that I must have missed. It was back in October of Melissa Ford saying, hey, it can be hard for women to negotiate. Or she wondered if it is, because men tend to have less of a problem saying, I want this, this, and this. Melissa is half right. My people who are characterized as minorities in America, as well as women, don't ask for the same things that white males ask for and get paid less as a result. Now, that's one reason. So that's true. But that's also a reason why you should hire an attorney. I don't know why anybody who is someone like Melissa Ford, and I'm assuming I could be wrong, is negotiating anything on her fucking own. Why? You shouldn't even be bothered with it. What should happen is somebody should come to you, even if it's Joe. They should come to you and say, yo, I would like to book you for this. I want you to be on the pod. We need to renegotiate your contract. It's like, cool. This is my attorney, such and such, or Demetrius Jones. Talk to him so we can get this started. Should he call Ian? Should he call you? Who should he talk to about it so we can get the ball rolling on my next agreement? How do you end up negotiating? And I don't know her, so I don't know if this is how she ended up negotiating on her own, assuming she did or anybody did. People are cheap as fuck when it comes to buying legal advice, buying the advice that they need. And I'm going to get into this deeper later once I get this section, but they don't want to pay for it. So this is the thing. I tell people, especially if you're negotiating employment contract, they got a lawyer. Why don't you? Did they just send any old body to go and talk to you about it? No, they got their lawyer drafting an agreement. So you should have a lawyer, unless you are a lawyer and you think you that good. Cool. But you not. So pay a little amount of money to save yourself a lot of money in the long run. In regards to, so that's what I would say to Melissa. Now I'm going to go to ICE because ICE, now Melissa, 100,000. ICE also 100,000. I think ICE and Melissa both contribute to the podcast enough to make what I feel should be the minimum, because $100,000 per month is the minimum that someone should make on this podcast. It's not the maximum. It's the minimum that they should make. And why I say with the maximum, because I think they make 30 million really at the podcast, but we're going with 20. All right. I think, and I'll get to Joe too. Somebody like ICE, $100,000 too. But ICE, to me, is also entitled to a wardrobe budget. And people might say, why you think ICE should get a wardrobe budget? Because ICE is the only person up there who actually can dress. I was watching Joe and Jada's podcast because I was watching the one with Jim Jones on it. And once Jim said that shit about Nas, and I was like, you have more entries in the Billboard and stuff than Nas. I was like, I don't think that's about to be true. But I was like, I'm glad somebody checked. It made me start doubting Jim on everything. I was like, can the nigga dress? But I did look Jim up, and I saw a lot of his looks. I was like, Jim can dress. And on that podcast, he said something. I was like, see, he got the philosophy of somebody who can dress. Where Jim said, I can go anywhere. I can buy any store. I can buy anything and I'm going to make it look right. I'm going to make it look good. Something like that. And it don't have to. And he also said this, it don't have to be, something like Louis or what. All that don't matter. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, I think he can dress. Ice, when I looked at the show, well, Joe and Jada Reed, I brought it up because when he said that, Jada, who I really do like as a podcaster, say, oh, what you call my Louis? Because Jada, he had on some Louis at that point. Now, was it fly Louis or anything? No, it was just, to me, it was Louis for the sake of Louis. And Joe made the point of, I think, saying Joe, not Joe Budden, Fat Joe, of like, yeah, unlike some other podcasts, we come like this. I don't watch their show enough, but I know in that episode, I wasn't impressed by how they dress either. A lot of people think that by buying very expensive clothing, then you automatically have style that is equivalent. And that's not true. Designers, whether we're talking Louis, Off-White, whoever, make a lot of bullshit. Like, where it's like, that's not good. They make a lot of things where I'm like, I wouldn't pay that. I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't wear that. A lot of stuff like that. But that's part of the creative process. Like my boy, Alan, loves some Prince. But I remember one day Alan was talking. He's like, man, yeah, Prince make a lot of bullshit. He does. Anybody who writes or creates songs, you have to make a lot of songs to get to that 12, or especially if you're doing some Chris Brown shit where it's like 30. I remember one time I felt like Chris Brown gave me motherfucking homework. It was so many songs. I was like, man, it's like 50 songs. Oh my God. But same thing with designers. That's how it is. They make a lot of bullshit. And people buy this bullshit because it's like, yeah, this is fly. No, it's not. Ice. And it took me a bit to see it. I was like, that, you want to talk about somebody who understands coordination? I've seen that dude coordinate somewhere. It's like a little amount of color in his Reebok that matches this one thing on this hat, that matches this one thing here. And I'm like, hold up. And the color combination and the color, sometimes it's the color blocking that he does. I'm like, this dude can dress. He may not be like the stuff that he's wearing. It's not terribly expensive. It's affordable, but it's fly as shit. I was like, no, he can dress. I can see it. I can see it. Now, if he had a budget, it wouldn't be no stopping that. I was about to say, it wouldn't be no stopping that nigga. Ice really can dress. Now, I was watching the show and I heard Joe Budden say something about, I'm the best dressed. No, it was when Joe had all this outfit that looked like some kung fu fighting shit. This is the thing with fashion and with Joe Budden. Joe Budden does wear expensive clothing. I've seen some things that he has worn that either are in my collection or something that I would buy. But most of it is not, it's just not good. It seems like Joe goes to Balenciaga, goes to Bottega Veneta, and the clerks see him and they treat him and they're nice. They treat him nice. They're like, Joe, ha, yeah. They talk to him. They probably bring him some champagne and all this type of shit. And they're showing him what's the newest thing, this, that, whatever. And he's trying it on and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this. And it's ugly. And clerks will do this where it's like, yeah, I know he'll buy this and he'll buy that or whatever. Because for Joe, I think, and he can speak to this better than I can, it's about the experience. But no, it's not good. It's just not good. And that's why I'm like, Ice is the best dress. And I would try to get him that budget. This may be sexist. I'm not going to try to get a guy like Ice hair and makeup. One, Ice is bald, maybe beard or something like that, but he probably is not going to even want that, to be honest. And you got to read the room and know your client. Some other clients, who are males, yes, they're going to want that. Like when I was on shows, no makeup. I think at one time I let somebody, they said, well, you're shining. Can I just give you some powder? I was like, okay, you can do the powder, but I'm not wearing no damn makeup. I'm just not doing that. So That's why I would say for Ice. Now with Ish, I don't know if Ish can or can't dress. I know he wears a lot of his own personally branded stuff. So, I don't know. But I know with Ice, he can, and that can become part of the show if he was given a budget that allow him to, really, really explore that. But I wouldn't trade that for trinkets. I wouldn't trade it for trinkets. I remember I read this book I think it was on Death Row, and somebody alleged that at one point Suge had gave Corrupt, and this could have been early on, I don't know. They alleged they give him, I think it was Corrupt's manager, it gave him a car instead of the amount of money that he was owed. I'm careful with not trading my clients' money for trinkets. So I'd rather do an all-in deal where it's like, okay, $100,000 a month. Okay, cool. And he'll do his own wardrobe. Because Ice, out of 1.2 million, Ice could do that. He could do that, no problems. Let's say Ish. Wait, no. Yeah, now we got to get to Ish. I got to make sure I'm getting all these points, y'all. I don't want to miss nothing. Oh, with Ish, like I said, no wardrobe budget. But I would say with Ish, anywhere between 100,000 and 110,000 a month would be fair. I think Ish is worth a little more. It's just something else he brings to the show. Or it could be it's something else that he brings to the show, and he might need a little more to get him to push it a little more, And you can also do some things where there are brand sponsors that can be specific for somebody who's on the show. And Ish, and given what he does and housing and what have you, could lend himself to getting a sponsor. And I don't know if they have like a sponsorship split on the show where it's like, oh, if you bring in a sponsor, you get X amount of dollars. I think Ish might be one who could bring in a sponsor for the show. Now, on the side, I have not heard that there are craft services on this show. So when Dr. Mark Lamont Hill jokes about, hey, we should unionize, I don't think that's like totally a joke, because if it was a union, if this was a union deal, and I can't remember, I don't think SAG, I think this would be AFTRA covers it, there'd be craft services. There should be craft services on the show. Now, what that could be is I order lunch for everybody. I remember once I was doing this show. The shoot was not that far from Whole Foods. And we had a long shoot that day. And the guy, and they did the mics. They were our mic people. They were like, hey, can you, the producer came to them and it's like, hey, can you just grab some from Whole Foods? We're going to give you all money to go over there. And he was like, no, my contract says I get a fucking meal. Not eating any shit off of a Whole Foods bar. They will try you. Let me just tell you this. So you got to know your contract, know what you're entitled to. And if they don't want to work with you again, who gives a shit? I'm from Detroit. I believe in unions. I've represented the SEIU. That's the Service Employees International Union. Let me tell you, when you represent SEIU, can't nobody fuck with you. Can't nobody fuck with you after that. Because you are representing people who are the most vulnerable. Because these are the people who are the assistants to nurses. These are the people who are sanitation engineers. These are the people who they feel are the most replaceable. So when you can go in there and you can pretty much have on the fuck you face to the person across the table in that situation, can't nobody stop you when you like dealing with stuff in Hollywood, when you got plenty of leverage, where there's plenty of people who may hire you or something like that. I'll never forget one of my proudest moments. And I had to go in Upper Michigan a lot, which is less than friendly sometimes to black people. And I was at this, what was I at? This dinner with the SEIU, and was it the president? It was either the president, the chapter president, I can't remember, but it was an older black man. And I was getting some food, and he said something like, oh, so now what's your name? I was like, oh, I'm Demetrius Jones. He's like, Demetrius Jones? I was like, yes, sir. He was like, I done heard about you. Yeah, I heard you done been going up there forgetting your color. I was like, He's like, I like you. You my type of people. And he gave me a hug. I'm going to tell you, ain't nothing better than an old black person telling you they're proud of you because you have gone and forgot your color. Ain't nothing better than that. And he was right. I don't give a fuck. I don't care who is on the other side of that table. I'm about to represent this client right here. And because I've only agreed to do it because I think they have a righteous cause to begin with. If I didn't think it was righteous, I'm not about to do it. So I'm coming at you. And you can sit there if you want to, thinking that you can use white supremacy and white privilege as a shield. I will break that shit into a million pieces with about flicking your ass. That's what I think about that. So with Ish, that's the amount that I would say that he deserves. Now, just so, you know, in case anybody is wondering, it's like, well, damn, if he paying Ish this, he paying her that, and he paying Ice this, how the hell is Joe? Joe should be getting $5 million. That's how much Joe should be getting from this podcast. And the minimum, that's good. $5 million, that gives him another $15 million to promote and pay people, right? So if he's paying the cast 7.2 plus 7.2 plus 5, 3, that's 10. That's like 12.2, right? That's another 8 million. Not 8 million, 7.8. Yeah, I think 7.8. Let me see. 7.2 plus 5. 7.2 plus 5. I just want to make sure I got my numbers right. 12.2. That needs another $7.8 million to pay contractors, which you probably should be able to pay. We're about $1 million. To promote the show, which you should be able to pay about $2 million. Cover anybody else, partners or whatever, which you should be able to pay with another million or so. That's still going to leave you another 5. Wait. Got 12.2. Still going to leave probably like, because I'm throwing millions around. Because I know everybody watches like, just throwing millions around. Just saying. That's still going to leave you another 3 odd, because I'm not about to do that exactly. That's going to leave you another 3 odd million to do whatever, right? That's another 3 million to do whatever. So let's say you keep that. And you got to pay taxes on all this. That's still coming out to like 8 million. Depending on how many million I throw, 7 to 8 million for him per year. That's good. And that's assuming the 20 million, right? Now with Parks shouldn't be getting 100,000 per month because Parks is not really on the show as on-screen talent. He's kind of in that role of the Gelman character from Regis and Kelly, where it's like he's kind of off to the side, but he should get paid for his engineering work. Shouldn't be that much per year. So with Parks, I would say Cass is getting 100, maybe 50 a month, and then throw in another for the engineering work, throw in maybe another 15,000 a month. Yeah. So maybe 65,000 a month for Parks. I think that would be fair. I like to get chat's opinion about this. 65 as engineer and talent. I think it is. But let's see what chat says. Oh, no, they think he would still be underpaid. Oh, wait, 65. No, not a year. Oh, they thought per month, per 65,000 a year. That's according to that interview I saw. That's Julian. Hold up. No. Per month. They thought per year. Damn. Oh, God. It says, thanks for clarifying. Yes, that's very good, but only if it's real and reflects market race plus equity of impact. Yeah, that's about 780,000 a year, 4,167 per episode, or 50,000, 5,000 per episode. That's pretty good. Yeah, and if I was negotiating for Parks, I probably would ask for the 100,000. That's what I would ask for, but I would just be trying to. If I got 75,000 a month, that would be a win, especially since it's no longer shooting in his place. Now, he could ask for a commuting budget because he doesn't live in Jersey. So commuting budget, let's say maybe 1,000 a month, something like that, depending on, how much it costs for him to get there in regards to time and everything. But yeah, that's what I would say. Now, let me see. Who are we up to next? Damn, did I lose my pen? No, there we go. I like to use pencils because I can erase. So I've been using pencils ever since I took the bar. So I covered the Joe and the dressing. Oh God. Oh, also the wardrobe budget. I hope Joe is writing off his wardrobe, because the wardrobe for the show should be a write-off, because it is, you got to wear something, and it is for the show. So he should be writing that off, and everybody else on the cast should be writing that off. Yeah, for sure. But that also means if you were given these people budgets for hair and makeup, for wardrobes, they could write it off too. Joe, could write that off too. Okay. Now, Dr. Hill. How much should Dr. Hill make on the Joe Budden Podcast? This is tough. If I was negotiating for Dr. Hill, where would I start? Where would I start for Dr. Hill? I would say I would start 200 a month. No, and this is my process that I go through. I'm like 300 a month. Can I get 300 a month? And so y'all are seeing my process in real time. 300 times 12. What are we looking at per month? 300. No. How much? Because I got to get my mind right, because I got to tell the client. Talking about $3.6 million a year for Dr. Hill. Yes, I would ask for it. And the reason why I would ask for it is he could probably get something like that from iHeart with Charlamagne. He would probably get something like that because people have seen what it is that he can do, what he brings to even a hip hop show that also has some political, some revolutionary topics in regards to black folk, in regards to white supremacy, in regards to politics. And they've seen it. So he has that much leverage where I would ask for it. Now, do I think he would get it? No. I think because I don't think Joe would lose the people who pay on Patreon if he didn't bring Mark back. And he might be able to find someone who could occupy that spot and bring similar knowledge. But this is the problem. I don't know if they can do what Mark does in regards to also talking about bullshit. Because see, they call him Dark Lamont Hill in this regard, because he can also joke around in a way that's inappropriate, but it's funny, and we know we're just playing and shit, and we come back and be like, okay, no, nobody really mean that. But he can do that. And he has that side where it's not all stuffy academic. It's not all intellectual. He can really just chill and like go along with that type of vibe that like Joe Budden has. But in addition, he is an intellectual, and this is a show that does not have that outside of him. Yeah, no, what do you mean? Everybody wants to be every fucking thing. Everybody's not an intellectual, okay? If being an intellectual, I'm going to pull up the actual definition. Being an intellectual requires that you be someone who is seeking out knowledge for the sake of the knowledge to learn, who is appreciating the nuance, who is reflecting on what it is that you learned, and testing what it is that you believe against the actual facts, and then disseminating that to people. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the actual definition, because I'm sure I miss some points in that. But you have, those are some of the things that you have to do. You have to think, and that is the process of thinking critically. Okay. Not just feeling things, not just saying things for a reaction, not just because people like Candace Owens, they're not intellectuals. Okay. That what they are people who talk on camera, but they're not intellectuals. There's not any critical thinking going on there. What is going on there is you're taking facts, twisting them to fit a narrative, and you're not appreciating the nuance. You're not doing any reflection, and you're doing this for the purpose of not in the pursuit of knowledge or development of intellect, but you're doing it to get a reaction to make money. That's not intellectualism. Like Amanda Seals is an intellectual. I don't know why the hell she's not crazy. She's an intellectual. And when you're an intellectual, you draw or come to conclusions that may go fly in the face of what you see in society. It may go against the zeitgeist, the pedagogy of what's out there, because you are actually looking at the facts and critically thinking about them and appreciating, and I have to keep saying the nuance. You are appreciating the nuance and taking that into account, and then you are disseminating that to the people. But I'm going to get the definition so we know what we're working with here in regards to how I would negotiate for Dr. Hill. And I want to read this because I always like to be like on the same page, and that could be the lawyer side of me where it's like, okay, here we go. An intellectual is someone who uses critical thinking, analysis, and reflection to understand complex ideas and often shares those ideas with the broader public. They usually engage with subjects like philosophy, politics, culture, economics, or art. An intellectual is someone who thinks deeply and independently, analyzes society, history, power, and knowledge, engages in public discourse through writing, speaking, teaching, raises questions that challenge the norms, systems, and assumptions. They're not just smart. They're not just smart. And see, that's the thing. Like when I said, well, he's only an intellectual there. I'm like, the reason I said that is like, no, there can be other smart people there, but there's something else going on with the intellectual. They create or critique ideas, influence how others think, and often outsiders to power, even when educated. And tell me that ain't Amanda. They're outsiders to power, even when educated. And that kind of goes along with influencing the public because that's where their power is going to come from. Oftentimes when you are in power, it can be difficult to be an intellectual in that regard where you're actively influencing, people because you're too busy accumulating power. Of course there's power in the, influencing or what have you, but Mark is the intellectual, and that does bring something to that podcast. I promise you, before Mark came, I was about to stop watching because I was like, this shit too stupid for me. Because you can go and freestyle and not be well researched on the topic. Okay. But in order to do that, you have to have these skills, the critical analysis skills, critical thinking skills, the reflection. You have to have that. So, because I can go and riff and tell you why what Israel is doing to Gaza is fucked up. I don't have to go and study up on that, because I know that. I know that already. I don't read books about that already. I don't talk to people about all that already. I know that. There are many things in regards to business. I don't have to go and look up. I could just riff and talk about that. But oftentimes what I was noticing with the show is that people were talking and saying things that were just totally incorrect, not based in fact. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I have to find better things to do with my time than watch this. And I started watching other shows, of which, let me say this. I started watching more Roland Martin. I started watching more Amanda Seals. I started watching more. I like some of his guests on Diary of the CEO, although I have very different politics than I think he does, and not very different, just in certain respects in regards to oppression and what have you. But this is something else I need to raise. These lists that come up, like I noticed that the Joe Budden podcast was on Rolling Stone's list of most influential. This is just all a PR thing to me. I think I respect the Joe Budden podcast, but Roland Martin's podcast is not on that list. Stephen Bartlett's podcast is not on that list. The fuck? Joy, who's it? Joyanne, the reporter that was fired from CNN, she not on that list? Shannon Sharp not on that list? And I say this because when you look at followers or what have you, right? And I like to see the criteria. Sometimes the number of followers they have are dwarfing what you see with the Joe Budden podcast, which I think might be at 2 million. And I think Roland is on par with Joe Budden. Stephen Bartlett probably got about damn near 6 million. I don't know how many Shannon got, but these lists, I'm like, what is this? Which also lets me know why Joe was like, okay, let me let y'all know about what I'm doing over here, because these publications, this is what they do. It's like, oh yeah, they're making 20 million. You got to put them up there. And I'm not to say that Joe Budden's podcast isn't influential. It is, but what about all these other podcasts that aren't on the list? I digress. But I would also say this to say, like, as a negotiation strategy, Mark can go to one of those pods. Now, I know he's building this whole night school thing and what have you, but Mark can go to one of those pods too and do very well, maybe $5 million per year. So that's why I would negotiate with Mark. No wardrobe budget. I don't think Mark is a fantastic dresser. I don't think that's his thing. He wears some nice t-shirts. He can buy that shit on his own. But if he wanted it, I'd ask for it again once we negotiated the pay. It's always about the pay. And some companies, you're not going to get more pay. That's just how you're not getting no more pay. The pay is the pay. So then you have to negotiate vacation. Companies will give you vacation, but remember, do it in the beginning. Because when everybody wants you, they're willing to give you whatever. So if you want more than American style 2-week vacation, if you want 2 weeks every quarter, ask for it. They may say, oh, it's not our policy. Fuck your policy. You want me here? This is what you're going to have to do. They will do it, right? Hell, I negotiated one time that someone would get a full year's pay if they quit. Full year's pay if they quit within the first year, even if it was a month after. And they was like, well, why would we do that? Because I'm like, if this person leaves, it's because y'all fucked up. That's the only reason why. But to leave would damage their career because it's going to be a gap. And so they either going to have to blame you or they're going to blame that person. So they have to be protected because of that. Now, let me see. Did we cover everybody? Flip. How much would I say I would negotiate for Flip? Less than Mark, but Flip is the energy to me of the show. And I think Flip has a lot of potential. I think he does, to cross over into something else in media. I don't know if that potential will be realized in, what is that? I don't know if that potential will be realized in the Flip the Network or something else, but he has it. I would say I would start $200,000 a month for Flip. Joe is not going to give Flip $200,000 a month because he don't see him like that. The only way Flip would get that is if Flip goes out on his own and gets that. So what I would do is if Flip if we can get him at $125 a month, and remember what I just said about vacation, and he gets certain days off paid, right? If he gets certain days off paid or can do a short pod, something like that, I would do it. That's why I would recommend. Flip is $125,000 a month, and that honestly is a bargain because it probably could get $150. But if it's $125 and he has the opportunity to build, and you can throw some things in there that may placate Joe, where it's like, well, I'll do this, Joe, but I'll also do something in regards to the JBP for my thing, where we do a cross promotion sort of thing, something like that. Joe might be willing to go for that. Ian. Now, Joe calls Ian his partner. He may very well be. Oh, and this is something else. This brings me back to Mark. He very well may be. Now, Ian was also Joe's manager. I don't know if Joe would give his manager equity in the Joe Budden podcast, possibly the network, the podcast. If I was advising Joe, I would say, no, don't do that. If he did do it, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't see the necessity of doing that because you can just pay the manager a percentage of what you make, like Justin Bieber, Scooter Braun, or something like that. I've had clients not sign, but be approached with deals where this one client, I remember, they wanted something in everything, equity in everything. And I was like, you should only receive equity in something that you can help me with. This, of course, would not apply to Ian because clearly he was able to help Joe with the podcast. But I gave them an example. I was like, if my client made a shoe and that shoe sold well, you will receive a percentage of that. But you all are not cobblers. There's nothing that you can do to help my client. And they admitted it. Like, yeah. So I was like, let's limit it to these things that you all can actually assist with. In regards to Ian, the best way to pay a manager would be, hey, you get a percentage of the revenue that I make. Now, I suspect that if Ian has equity, he would have it in the network, right? Or because that is the thing, like the Joe Budden Podcast is the flagship show of the Joe Budden Network. Without that podcast, though, without Joe, everything collapsed. So I don't even know if Joe has a deal that he has signed with the Joe Budden Podcast. Because if I'm the lawyer, like let's say Joe is doing this because he wants to sell the podcast to Spotify, do a partnership deal or something like that. Who fuck knows? Joe would have to sign an agreement to be a part of the podcast, which I don't know if he's already done. But if I'm the lawyer, I'm structuring it that way. Joe would get paid X amount of dollars. He would sign an agreement to the podcast. Ian will receive a percentage of that agreement, not of everything from the show. But if Joe did it the other way because they have been working as business partners, totally get it. I think Ian manages DJ Premier. So I think Ian has a lot of connections because there's no way you can manage DJ Premier and not, if you didn't have them already, not end up with a lot of connections. And so that works well for the network. I noticed that Ian is doing shows with Mark and what have you. I'm not sure, how that scores in regards to views. But to me, that's the equity. If I would Joe, I would say we're trying to build a network, do shows, do this, do that. And that's how you would build your equity in regards to Ian. If I was Joe, it would be with the network. Otherwise, standard manager 20% would be, what Ian would make. But he also participates in the show, but he got 20%. So Ian is making $20 million. I might negotiate, but if I have Ian negotiating and shit like that in conjunction with my lawyer, with Melissa and with Ish and Ice and Flip and Parks or what have you, kind of is difficult to say you should get it off of just the show after net. So $4 million for Ian, sure, because I think it's $30 million anyway. So you got $5 million for Joe. Hold up, let me add this up. Oh no, wait. Oh, off the whole show. I may not be able to give it to him off the whole show. If I'm negotiating for Ian, we got $5 million for Joe, plus 4 for Ian, plus 7.2 for the cast. See what we got here. Because this ends up for Ian in being one of those NBA deals like the coach make how much? So we're looking at that would be $16.2 million. So there's still $4 million left even after that. Even after you pay a meal for contractors, what have you, another meal to promote it, then it's still $2 million left. I know it's a remainder of 200,000 there. I didn't miss that, but still another $2 million left, even if Ian was making that, which also means that you could cover a little extra for Mark. So you still, let's say you throw a Mark an extra, because how much did I say for Mark? 300,000. You go get that. Mark would probably end up with maybe 200,000 a month, something like that. So yeah, you're still good. You're still good. You still got an extra meal, 1.5, or still a meal left. That's profit in addition to Joe getting 5. So that would mean Joe would still be clearing about 6.5. About. Let's say between 6 and 6.5, based on my logic. Now, I heard Danny say something to the effect of, well, they don't deserve that. They shouldn't be paid that. And I'm like, because they're replaceable. Like, oh, it's plenty of people that would take that $40,000 a month or something like that. They are. But does Joe want to work with them? See, we forget how much time these people, I think they're doing like 3 pods a week, if not more, behind the scenes, pod wives and all that. You forget how much time these people have to spend together. And if I'm negotiating, I'm betting Joe does not feel like dealing with more people, learning their habits, their likes and their dislikes and attitudes and ego. He don't want to do that shit. How do I know? Because Joe has said he don't really like people. And how do I know how somebody who don't like people would act? Because I don't fucking like people. So I get exactly where he be coming from. People are the worst, but they're also extremely entertaining. There's nothing more entertaining than people. That said, I have to all right, go and recharge my social battery. It be running low, and I don't get my energy from people. I get my energy from me. So I can tell you, he don't want to do that. It could fuck up the vibe, the chemistry. It could end up in lawsuits because there are a lot of risque jokes and scenarios that could lead to lawsuits on the Joe Budden podcast, depending on how sensitive or how traumatized or just the attitude of the person at the receiving end of whatever the joke, gag, jab, shade, whatever the fuck it is. So every time you bring somebody new in there, there's a risk. And that risk could lead to a $10 million settlement, a $20 million settlement, filing bankruptcy for the show. Like, fuck it, I can't do it, So Joe, he don't want to do that. And so that in and of itself is worth another $50,000 a month for everybody involved, because Joe don't want to change. Now, Joe will flirt around with I'm about to bring up somebody new. I'll try somebody new. But he has. That shit ain't worked out. So when I hear Danny say oh, you just plug somebody in, you just do that. I was like, you don't understand what it means to make more money. You want your life to be easy. A lot of times, even as an attorney, it could be people may not recommend me to somebody else because they want me to be there for them, nobody else. I remember it was this one rapper I dealt with. He thought that I was out of town, right? He thought I was, what did he think? He thought that I was from Atlanta or something like this. And he hired me, but then he found out oh, you're not from Atlanta. You from here. You from the D. You from the D. And he was like, he's like, oh, I ain't know that. And he never we worked together, but he never recommended me to anybody else because he didn't want a lawyer that was working for somebody else. Now, which is a criticism that I've had of Jay-Z. I don't like that he and Elon got the same attorney or used the same attorney often, because I'm sure Jay-Z and Elon both have plenty of attorneys. And I know Jay-Z don't give a fuck what I think, but I'm going to say what the fuck I think. I think that's too close for comfort given the circles that Elon runs in. It's like, what circles is that? The circles of people trying to destroy black folk. Those circles. I think motherfuckers is way too friendly with the ops in regards to personnel. You wouldn't be sharing housekeepers. You wouldn't be sharing nannies. The lawyer has such important privilege and confidential information. You don't want to have the same lawyer as this dude. I wouldn't. So with Joe Budden, though, Joe does not want to rebuild again. He don't want to work with new people. He just did that, right? And maybe this is a good time to talk about this because I have this further down. So I'm going to skip down to this section right here because I got this further down. When I say he just did that, he did that when he had to replace Rory and Maul. You think he won't do that shit again? No. And let me say this about this whole thing with Rory and Maul and how, as an outsider who is a entertainment attorney, who understands the entertainment business as from top to bottom, from creative director to executive producer to talent, you name it, I have done it, I have been it. When it comes to Rory and Maul, first, Rory and Maul, if from what I have heard, now there are things that I don't know, but based on the facts of how I understand them asking for the accounting, never asked for the right thing from Joe. Now, that said, they shouldn't have had to. He should have just gave it. Now, if it's a case that he didn't know what to give, cool. I don't believe that shit because I think Ian was working there and I think Ian would know what the fuck to give them. That being said, asking for the accounting, they got the accounting. Now, they didn't believe it and they shouldn't have believed it. If I was their attorney, I would have said, I would have requested certified financial statements. Certified dashboard statements from Patreon, YouTube, all of the sources of revenue. And what is the key word there? Certified. Motherfucking. The accounting, anybody can give you accounting. Like, yeah, this is how much I spent. There you go. That's how it looks. But I guessed, I could be wrong. Rory Maul could tell y'all better than me. They didn't have an attorney doing this. They didn't have an accountant doing this. This was them doing it on themselves. That's why I think. And this is why I talk about assuming that this is what happened with people being cheap. Get a lawyer. Say, what should we ask for? I would have said ask for tax returns. Ask for certified financial statements by this accounting firm. Choose an accounting firm. Tell them to choose an accounting firm. And the accountant is going to go through those statements and certify and tell you via affidavit, hey, this is all in order. Does it mean that it is all in order? No. But the accountant would have asked for more than that. Ask for an audit by a third-party auditor that you all agree to produce the accounting. That's not even fuck we call it. I had never heard that. I had heard that term, but not used like that until Rory said it. I was like, the accounting? You mean the financial statements? Because in evaluating businesses and performing due diligence and performing forensic accounting, both things that I have done and do, I ask for financial statements, tax returns, invoices, accounts payable receipts. Accounts payable receipts. What else? There's so many things, and they all have to be certified. Now, they can be certified by an accountant, and you can also have Joe Budden, Ian, whoever is giving you this shit, sign an affidavit saying that these are true, accurate, and they sign this under penalty of perjury, and you put in something where it's like, and if it's wrong by, I don't know, you could say 5%. I don't like to do that. I just say if it's inaccurate, you have to pay 3 times the amount that is off by, and we call that treble damages. But treble damages, but that's contractual. You can agree to that, you know. You can do it as what we call a consent judgment, where you can have them sign saying, if it's off by this, we'll fill in an amount, consent judgment. You can take that to the judge and have it enforced, even without trial. It's really cool. I really love consent judgment. But with Rory Maul, I don't have any evidence to suggest that they asked for the right thing. And I don't know why they wouldn't, given unless they did not have the proper personnel working with them. So that being said, Joe and Ian, or whoever was doing this for them, should have just gave them that. We're friends. We've built this business together. And why do I have to go through all these hoops to get you to tell me how much money has been made? Why do I have to be made to feel like something is going on that may or might not be going on? Joe might not have stole shit from them, but failure to produce that in a manner that would totally obliviate any possibility that they were being cheated is something that a friend should do. So I say it before, I say it again. Pay for a damn lawyer. Pay for the proper professionals and stay in your lane. I think Rory Maul in that situation unfortunately got what they asked for. A spreadsheet, not a statement. That's why I see it. Now, some people, I think, have been upset since they seen like how much Joe is making. I don't get that. I really don't get why anybody would be mad at Joe. The only 2 people who could decide like we mad at Joe is Rory and Maul, because they helped build that. It reminds me of like when I look at Rock Nation, when I look at a lot of Jay-Z's success, I have to remind people when Jay-Z has that line, like they say they made Hove, build another Hove. I'm like, to be fair, this blueprint of Rockefeller from my vantage point of looking at how things ran and what have you, the different artists, Benny Siegel, Kanye, that was Damon Dash. Jay-Z, this is Damon, and Biggs, and Jay. This is together. But Jay has the shit because he's the talent. I get it. He's the most talented. I think at one point, 80% of the sales from Rockefeller were Jay-Z. But then Kanye came. And see, that changes. Can you imagine if Kanye if Dame would have been able to keep Kanye? Can you imagine? I'm going to tell you, man, I'm not even sure, as successful as Kanye has been to date, there's a possibility he might have been even more successful with Dame. I know people say, well, Dame spends all this money and Dame does that. Well, part of the problem, because Dame also found currency. When currency is one of the most consistent motherfuckers out there, he's not, going to make records like Kanye and Jay-Z that are going to hit up here, but Dame can find talent. But it's difficult for somebody like Dame to build that, walk away, and then build something else. I saw Dame do a number of things. I'm like, he don't have that same machine. And when he says that thing about, well, man, I'm out here, I'm fighting battles and shit. And this is all stuff. This is all stuff that Dame has said. And then I see Jay, and then Jay is on vacation with the dudes I'm fighting. Dame occupied a very tough position. And I've occupied that position before too, where I have to cuss motherfuckers all the way out. I don't cuss out like Dame, and it's something I did learn from him. I do not cuss out people who are not my equals. I don't do that. I cuss out those who are my equals. Somebody else, who isn't, and when I say equal, I mean hierarchy in regards to like where they may fall in the organization. I'm not cussing out secretaries and shit like that. I'm not about to do that. Their boss, yes, and then they can go and do whatever they will with. But I'm not about to cuss the person getting coffee or something. I'm not doing that. But when you have to play the heavy, people take it one or two ways. They either go really respect you, or they go trying to separate you from the talent. And they go coddle the talent, give talent what it needs, like, oh, yeah, you're the greatest, whatever. And they get all that, but you get we ain't paying this greatest talent what they deserve. And then you have to go back to the talent like, oh, they're not going to give you that. And then the talent's going to go off on you because they got this relationship with management where it's like, oh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We cool, which kind of reminds me of my hero right now, Beth from Electronics. Wait. Yeah, you might say, what this got to do with Joe Budden? Because it's about labor. That's what this is all about. And often when we're talking about people in sports, we're talking about labor management. Talking about people podcasting, labor management. We're talking about people at Walmart, labor management. Beth got sick of that shit with them telling them, like, y'all replaceable. We don't need you. I just want to see. She said something about that big lazy bitch Chris something. Oh, I can't remember the name. I want to see. I know. So, hey, when I'm going to go off, I'm going to start saying Demetrius from Legal. Oh, this is Demetrius from Legal. Let me tell you something, motherfucker. She said this. Beth from Electronics got on that speaker. Oh, God. I don't have my. Hold up. Let me see. Hold up. I'm going to pull this up. Hold up. God, please, from Electronics. Please let me be able to find this. Wait. Y'all ain't got it? Electronics. Because y'all got to hear this. Okay. Wait. Hold on. Wait. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. I think I got it, baby.
My name is Beth from Electronics. I've been working at Walmart for almost 5 years, and I can say that everyone here is overworked and underpaid. And customers poorly every day. Whenever we have a problem with it, we're told that we're replaceable. I'm tired of the constant gaslighting. This company treats their elderly associates like shit. To Jared, our store manager, you're a pervert. Fuck the managers, fuck this company, fuck this position, and fuck that big lazy bitch, Chris Price. Fucking quit. Louisiana Walmart.
Fuck this. Wait, I gotta hear that shit again. Oh, God. Hey, one more time. One more time, baby. One more time. Hold up. Wait. Hold up. We ready?
Walkers and Associates. My name is Beth from Electronics. I've been working at Walmart for almost 5 years, and I can say that everyone here is overworked and underpaid, and customers poorly every day. Whenever we have a problem with it, we're told that we're replaceable. I'm tired of the constant gaslighting. This company treats their elderly associates like shit. To Jared, our store manager, you're a pervert. Managers, fuck this company, fuck this position, and fuck that big lazy bitch, Chris Price.
Woo-wee! First off, I think old girl probably is lazy. I don't know her. I ain't seen her. But for Beth from Electronics to act like that, come on now. Come on now. Beth don't want to do that. She's sick of this shit. She don't want to be here no more because that's what happens in companies. That's how they treat you. And so when I say with Joe, and the reason why I'm adamant about, man, you got to pay these people more. Joe has complained. I've heard Joe for years complain about the music industry and how they treated him and this, that, whatever. You're in that position now to treat people right. And if you do the same thing that the music industry, that the companies did to you, that you feel like Complex did to you, then you're not really independent. You're just rebuilding the same oppressive system that you escaped from, and you're oppressing someone else. And too often Black people get in these positions of power, and that's what we do. I remember now back in high school, I used to take history tests, and I would write notes to my teacher debating, because I would finish, I would be done. And whether we're talking politics, what have you, different classes, I'd be done. And so I'd be done, and then I just write notes debating different things to him. It was a white dude. And one time he wrote back when I said something about, how white people oppress us, this, that, whatever. He's like, but so do Black people take advantage of the Black people. And I said to him, and when he said, I had to think about that, as a young kid, I was like, he's right. But it's something, don't get me wrong, it's something worse when white people do it. It's something that makes you feel even more exploited, because it's just something about it. With that foot, I wrote a poem in my book, All the World's a Runway, where I talk about, it's something about when a white person puts a foot on your neck. It's like the boot has spikes because they put a little extra something. But with Joe, I'm like, you got the opportunity to do something right. And because these people on the podcast, they talk about their hopes, their dreams, their kids, their families. It's like, don't you want Ish's kids to do X, Y, and Z, to be able to go to this school, that school, and ICE and Mark, and don't you want that? Because if you say yes, then you have to share. And we have this philosophy where it's like, I have to accumulate more. I get where Joe wants to invest in the pod. I do get that. And he can very well do that within the confines of how much he makes. But at the same time, you got to invest in people. And so, am I there yet? I don't know. I'm trying to think about if I'm there yet. Because there's something, I kind of am. Let me go there. There's like, I wish Charlamagne and Joe acknowledge that they respect each other. They do acknowledge that, and I do like that. But they also take these jabs at each other, and I wish they didn't. I wish they would spend more time working together, and they possibly could behind the scenes. I don't know this. But they have two different business models, because Joe, which kind of reminds me of Dame, criticizes or critiques or has a different philosophy than Charlamagne in regards to owning your own stuff. Charlamagne is big on scaling and partnership. Okay. Joe is big on owning your stuff. They're both viable business models. I will say this, and Joe has come to the philosophy, I believe, where he believes it's more important to build friends than a slate of shows that do okay, right? Or it's more important to build Martin than a slate or Living Single than a slate of shows that do okay. Charlamagne, on the other hand, has a belief in, I could be wrong and he can correct it, whatever, in partnership, in scaling, in employing, and creating more shows. What I see with the Black Effect Network is more of a network. Now, are all the shows as popular as Joe Budden's podcast? All the shows put together? Probably not. But Charlamagne is spreading the wealth in a way that I don't think Joe Budden is. And that's why, for me, the way Charlamagne conducts the business is a superior business model in regards to helping more Black people become successful podcasters, successful entertainers, successful talent, because of he's bringing in more than Joe, who, don't get me wrong, it's a great podcast. And he has six great podcasters up there. Six good to great podcasters up there. But Charlamagne is more so building the network. And so people would say, yes, but Joe, and I heard Danny, and this was a very good point that Danny made. Joe owns his content totally and he can do whatever the hell he wants with it, which is even more money. That's great. But it's not all about money. It's about influence. It's about the people that you're putting into place to make this thing grow so that you can accumulate power and tell the truth, to give solutions, to give guidance to the people that may or may not need it, to give them joy. And that, to me, is what Charlamagne is doing at a greater scale in regards to how he builds the show. At the same time, Charlamagne owns 50% of the venture. Now, I don't know the particulars about if that means he owns 50% of the content, because if the venture, The Black Effect, owns its content and iHeart owns half of The Black Effect and Charlamagne owns half of The Black Effect, he owns half the content. So he's giving away half his content for a hell of a bank that allows Charlamagne to make a lot of moves that, up until Joe let people know how much money he was making, we didn't see Joe in certain spaces. It depends on which way you want to go with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with partnership, depending on, how your partners behave, if they're white supremacists or not, if they're sexist or not, all of the things. It just depends. But I can't shit on Charlamagne, even though I don't watch The Breakfast Club all that much. The times that I have, I was like, I do really like it because I like the 4-person host with Just Hilarious, and I forget the other woman's name, but I really do like it. And so, yeah, I'm fine either way on that. I'm fine either way, but I do think at the way that Joe runs it, Charlamagne's model is superior in that regard. And I think this is one of the reasons why I'm like, Joe, you need to pay the talent more. I'm not as privy to what the contractors are making, but you need to pay the talent more. Or in that same, how can I say this? Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Let me make sure I get that. Make sure I got everything. Also, that was also a thing I wanted to throw. Also, whether it's Charlamagne or Joe. Now, this is one thing I do agree that they both have in common. I'm not sure if people who are on the network own their content in regards to podcasting. And that is something that I think both of them should push for, because podcasting, unlike anything else, is something that you write. So there's 2 ways of going about this. Either you can say, and I think Joe does this because he hasn't prevented Melissa or Flip from doing their thing. So, or Mark, you can say, hey, you can work here and still do your own thing. Now that I will say Joe is fair about. I'm not sure if Charlamagne does that, but I do believe in podcasters being allowed to own their content. Now, not on the JBP, that is his. But if you're going to do a show on the Joe Budden Network, you should own that show. Even if it's a reversion where it's like, okay, you'll get the content back in 10 years. I believe, and this is legal theory, that there is a reversion of all types of content, not just music. And this is something going on with Salt and Pepper, and Universal is saying that no, they can't exercise the rights that because they didn't sign the contract. It's called the 35-year rule, which says that 35 years after release of your music, you are allowed to reclaim the IP. Okay. Now, with Salt and Pepper, without going into the deep dive of that, it can be a little murky because I'm not sure to what extent they wrote the music. I think Herbie Lovebug? I think Herbie Lovebug wrote it, but I am confused as to where the fuck is Herbie because all you got to do is join him. Maybe you do a motion to failure to join an indispensable party or do a motion for a joint. Bring him in, talk to him. I don't really understand this to the degree that I should, but I will say this. I think that all creators of content may be able to use this rule. I do. And I'm about to explore that a bit more, and I will come back to that, but I do think so. That said, with the Joe Budden podcast, I think they should definitely, if you're going to be, and that could be a hook, but I feel like, what's the point of all of this if you're not going to do things differently? What's the point of this if Joe Budden is not going to redefine what a network is? If the network is going to be the same thing that has always been, what the fuck is the point of supporting Joe Budden versus anybody else? So ownership, not necessarily in his network, but for the people who come there to podcast in their own separate shows, that should be a given. I've had this discussion with many network personnel, execs, and what have you. And the way a network operates is they build a treasury. Their treasury is their shows, their catalog. So when they get ready to sell and all this, is like, oh, we got all these shows, right? That's cool when you're putting up a lot of money and you're paying a lot of people. But when I am the person sitting here for hours on end, just talking, giving you, my heart, my soul, I'm writing it. It's my face. It's my eyes. It's my ears. It's my style. It's my vibe. Then you should, because you've been through it. Because this is the thing, when we hear these things about the war stories of, somebody like Joe Budden who has been through it. But what did you gain? What did you learn from that? What do you want to give to the people now to show like, no, this is how it should have been done. This is how I should have been treated. And now a lot of people get on the other side of that and they'd be like, fuck it. I went through it. So now you got to go through it. But that is the cyclical nature of the entertainment business. I get fucked over, now I fuck somebody else over. It's like a big ass fuck over Ponzi scheme in reverse because you end up actually having it and then you screw somebody. So I think that is pretty much, that's pretty much it. My main point at the end of this is I really would hope that Joe Budden doesn't exploit people in the same way that he was exploited by labels. The point of leaving the system is not to rebuild the system, because that's not real independence. That's not. It's like the example that I have about this. If you've ever seen the movie The Italian Job, Edward Norton. Oh, if you haven't, stop listening. Edward Norton in The Italian Job is one of the robbers, right? They're doing a heist. And he asked everybody before they do the heist, hey, what will you go do with the money? What do you go do with the money? What do you go do with the money? And they all tell him they got these ideas, and they ask him, or he don't know. So he screws them over. I don't know if he kills some people, but he gets the money. And when they do catch up with him, they find that all he did with the money is all the things that they named. Because he had no creativity, no originality, no real soul for it, right? He didn't really, if you think about it, there's no spirit in that. It's like, damn, you just did and I see like with Joe, if Joe is going to build a network that does the same thing, there's no imagination, does the same thing that all other networks, labels, and companies have done, there's no imagination. He would be like Ed Norton in The Italian Job. Like, what the fuck is the point? We might as well let the people keep the money that already have it if you go do the same fucked up shit. Because that ain't independence. It's not. But I digress. I have thoroughly enjoyed breaking this down. I have, yeah. And how much people should ask for. Most people and this is going to be my conclusion, don't ask for enough. We get scared. We're like, oh, I don't know. Whatever it is that you plan to ask for, this is just a rule that you should live by. Ask for 25% or 50% more than whatever you think you deserve, especially if you're black or woman or brown, whatever the fuck. Ask for, so if you think you think you should get paid $100,000, ask for 125 to 150. If you think you should get paid 200,000, right? Shit, 225. You gotta get it up. Is that the percent? Who gives a shit? You just got ask for more. I would honestly, sometimes I do 50% more. And sometimes I mean it, where it's like, I don't always negotiate with, hey, I'm asking for this, but if you give me less. No, sometimes I mean it. I had this one thing. It was a matter. I was like, it's gonna be $500,000 to settle this. And they were like, okay, well, maybe like 4. I was like, 5. It's like, you know, we probably negotiated this for about 6 months. 450, 5. 475, 5. Because I knew I had a client that did not give a fuck. They were so mad. They were like, whatever. I will walk away. When you got that, you can do whatever. So that said, Joe Budden Podcast, each member should be paid at least $100,000 per month, except for Parks, who should get $65,000. Oh, I forgot about Imani. Imani's on the Patreon, and he has to fill in. I don't know what Imani makes if he's only on the Patreon, not the main pod. But the Patreon makes a lot of money. I don't know. I would say Imani, and there's no disrespect to who Imani is. I'm saying this because of the number of appearances that he makes. I think if he's getting Imani 40 to 50,000 a month might be good. Yeah, because he's on camera. So it's kind of on par with Parks, but not there per se. You know, because I was going to say, you could replace Parks, but Parks does have some witty retorts. But yeah, you could replace Parks easier than you could Imani. Imani brings a certain type of energy and vibe. And so I would say, about equal. Yeah, so about 50 for Imani. Okay, that said, hope you have enjoyed this. In the meantime, in between time, I ain't said that in so long. I will be out here looking for stories. I do have one more. I'm going to cover this while I'm here. This is kind of just a tag on. The founder of Actively Black and this whole Ralph Lauren thing, he pointed out that people are willing to pay for the Ralph Lauren Oak Bluffs, Morehouse Spelman collection, upwards of like $120 for a t-shirt, probably $200 for a sweater. I can't remember, but they complained about paying $60 for his collection that was made in collaboration with black farmers, where they paid more for the cotton from the farmers and what have you, and that people were complaining like, why your shirt's so high? And he said there aren't any billion-dollar black, I think he alleged that there aren't any billion-dollar black fashion brands, of which I would say that's not true. There are. And I just wanted that out there. Like, no, there are. Off-White, as founded by Virgil Abloh, black brand. Savage Fenty, that's Rihanna, black brand. Skims is a little difficult. No, not really, because it's 2 black owners in there. It's Kanye and Amita. Yeah. And another black girl is in conjunction with Kim. I think Kim and the woman's husband owns the majority. I think both of the black people are minority owners, but that's still a black brand. I would still count that as a black brand and black fashion brand. Now, Pat McGrath, I was going to include that, but that's more makeup, more skincare, what have you. But there are some billion-dollar black brands, and I just wanted to clear that up. That said, I get his point. As I stated in response to what he said, there are a number of brands, whether we're talking about, I always fuck the name up, Telfar. I always mess it up. Carl Kanai, Wells Bonner, that charge way more than Ralph Lauren in regards to that collection, or you, and there are no complaints. I think when it comes to Actively Black and how it may be perceived, is I see it as like a workout brand. I don't see it as like fashion in that way. And so when I've looked at it and I got a cart full of it, now I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this, and this. I see it as that. Like, this is something I'm going to get to work out in. It's not something that I'm going to get for just fashion's sake. And I think the people who are complaining, because 60 is not even a lot, that is a different group of people than those who are going to flock to Ralph Lauren or to Wells Bonner or to Off-White or to Savage Fenty or to Telfar or to even Karl Kani, because Karl Kani got something I've been looking at where it's like, I think it's like 400, something like that. And we forget. And let me remind everybody, like, in addition to Actively Black, Cross Colors is still out there. FUBU is still out there. Karl Kani is still out there. What is the Walker Wear? All these brands are still out there. So we got a lot of black brands that we can support, and they got nice stuff. And I'm leave you, and this is what I'm gonna leave you with. And like Jim Jones said, it don't have to be Louis, it don't have to be Fendi, it don't have to be all of that to be, something that you can rock and look really stylish in. So with that said, I'm gonna end this because I've been talking a long ass time. Take them glasses off. I ask y'all please to be kind to one another, have empathy, be considerate. We need so much more love in the world. And when it's necessary, though, be something else. Peace. If this got you thinking, subscribe now.